If you're in a job that looks great on paper, but just doesn't light you up like it once did, you are not alone. I'm Chloe Temple, a leadership coach who spent the past 5 years helping leaders like you find clarity, confidence, and purpose without walking away from the security of a 9-to-5. Welcome to The Leader That Lasts, a podcast for ambitious professionals who want more than just making it through the week. Each episode, I'll share real stories, honest mistakes, and practical tools to help you find fulfillment wherever you are. Because staying doesn't have to mean settling. You don't need to leave, you need to lead. So let's dive in. Today we're talking about AI and a 3-month experiment that I am just at the start of embarking on. An experiment that has sort of come out of a bit of necessity. If you listen to episode 2, you'll know that I recently lost my full-time team member, the only other person who was operating in my business full-time. Now, I have other freelance support, but not full-time. And I talked about in a previous episode the reality that when Nat resigned, I nearly lost the plot. But instead of replacing her and finding someone else to do her job, I actually took a pause and decided to take a different approach and took a slightly terrifying decision to give me 3 months without anyone else full-time in the team. And instead of hiring someone else to see how much AI could support me instead, that decision has already set me off on a huge rabbit hole of learning. I thought I was using AI a lot. I always had ChatGPT open. But anyway, the last couple of weeks, I have had an education. And this episode, it's not going to be polished. This is not a how-to. This is not a guide. This is me sharing in real time both what it feels like to be building a business without a team and the fears that are coming up around that, but primarily the curiosity and what I'm exploring in terms of incorporating AI into the mix. Now, old me definitely would not have shared any of this out loud until I had it all figured out and I could share exact structured lessons and learning. But recovering perfectionist over here, I thought it could be interesting for certain people to see how I'm approaching this situation rather than the outcome of what I've learned from it. What is there to learn from the approach? And so this is going to be part 1 of 2-part episodes. So at the end of this 3 months experiment, I will do another episode that shares the learnings, the key takeaways. Now, part of my hesitance of sharing this isn't just because I don't know or have the solutions or answers, but actually because AI is quite a polarizing topic and there is a lot of fear that is associated with it. And quite rightly, you know what? If the last 3 weeks of really diving down that rabbit hole is anything to go by, anyone who does any sort of knowledge work has something to I'm not say worry about, but be conscious of. And people who I do worry about, and I am seeing this with some of my clients, particularly with some of the teams that I'm supporting, where there's individuals within the team who are much more resistant and much more fearful and actually want to avoid it at all costs. And that's a very interesting thing that organizations are navigating is how do you lead your people through the change without getting left behind, especially when so much of it is unknown. There are undoubtedly huge benefits to it, and there are also huge costs. I am fully aware that in a couple of years' time, I might listen back to this episode. Well, I wouldn't listen to this episode, but I might reflect back on how I felt about AI and have a completely different viewpoint on it. I am aware of that because the reality is no one really knows. Even the experts in this space, even the people who have been working on it, focused on it for years and years. I remember the first time I really heard about AI in any level of depth was maybe 7 years ago at a conference. And even at that time, there had been people who had been working on it for some time. And even then, I don't think they could possibly know. We do not know the extent of what will happen with this. But I am of the view that we are at a tipping point, that we get to choose how we respond to it. And I am not saying that I am right in my choice to embrace it and to educate myself and to learn and to lean in and to explore sensibly. And I can talk about some of how I'm trying to do that in a more conscious way. In fact, that's probably better shared in the lessons and learnings because I'm still navigating it. But I don't choose ignorance. I don't choose fear. And I do choose to see it as an opportunity for us societally to grow. I mean, conceptually, it has the capacity to save us so much time that our working life could look dramatically different. Like the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, that was designed by Henry Ford way, way back when. And yet it stayed to this day. I don't know if that is what the future will end up needing to look like. Actually, could we have more, I hate the word balance, for many different reasons, but for many people, it could be that their work doesn't need to take up as much of their days as it is because certain things could be automated. And yes, of course, that has implications from a job perspective, but it also has huge opportunities to reset our appreciation for different types of work. I mean, AI is not going to take over our need for plumbers, manual labor, anything that is, I mean, maybe the robots will start being able to fix toilets. Gosh, it is a minefield when you start to think about it. What I do know, though, is the dynamics are going to change and the humanness will never be replaced. I just can't see how it will. And that actually my expectation of what will happen is our appreciation for humans, authenticity, connection will only grow for in person, for real. But if we could stop wasting time doing basic stuff that just doesn't require thinking or expanding our consciousness, then surely that's a good thing. Anyway, that's my hope. And equally, I completely appreciate where people are nervous or downright uncomfortable. I don't think there's any going back. So how am I approaching this? I say that there were two of us working full-time in the business. There is now one of us working full-time in the business. And how am I leveraging AI in order for me to just not work even more than I currently work? Well, to answer that, it was probably worth looking at how I was leveraging AI before. Now, as I mentioned, I already had ChatGPT open all day. I already paid for the paid-for account, the £20 a month one, not the £200 a month one. I was already using tools that I wasn't really thinking, oh, I'm using this as an AI tool, but something like Grammarly that fixed spelling and grammar, tools like Canva, which is how I create my presentations. I was using that. And you know, it's integrated into lots and lots of different things anyway. So I was already using it base level. And I was doing a lot more than, simply using it as many did when they first started with things like holiday planning. I was attempting to use it for ideation, for pressure testing ideas, coming up with content, for getting me off a blank page, for thinking about how I would approach certain situations to respond, for analysing and assessing data, lots of things. And whilst I knew that there were other tools besides ChatGPT, I was kind of like, well, it's sort of good enough. What's the point in loads of different things if ChatGPT is going to do a pretty good job? So I think the first big learning journey for me has been, what even are other tools besides ChatGPT? What is the difference between what's Perplexity, what's Claude, what's Gemini? Why would I use those over or instead of ChatGPT for a large language model? So I've watched a lot of YouTube videos that have helped explain stuff like that. I've started to test out certain ones, so Perplexity and Claude. Claude's been great in terms of, if you're wanting to write and you don't want to sound like a robot, Claude is actually much better. Again, I don't ever recommend we're all going to sound exactly the same if we just rely on AI to do all our writing for us. But Claude is clearly designed with better writing skills than ChatGPT. So I've been exploring that. Perplexity. ChatGPT makes up stuff all the time, and it will try and fake the fact that it is lying. It will straight out lie to you. So do not rely on ChatGPT for pure research, or at least not a model that is not one of the more in-depth ones like ChatGPT Deep Research. You need to do your homework, but something like Perplexity, that's really good for research. It actually will search the web and actually find specific research papers, etc. So I've been using a little bit of that. Then let's look at this podcast as an example. So I am currently using an AI tool. I'm literally speaking into an AI tool that is transcribing this, it's called Descript, and I will literally be able to go in and cut out specific sentences, or if I've massively paused for ages, or my ums and ahs, it will be able to take those out very quickly, 10 times faster than if I was trying to edit this myself, which Nat used to do. All of my YouTube video editing, that was all Nat. And now I need to do, I don't need to do it all myself, because I could absolutely outsource it onto Fiverr or something like that, and I will, but I'm at the moment leveraging the tool so I can learn how to do it, and that's why the editing will not be perfect, but done is better than perfect, as Sheryl Sandberg says. So then, outside of those sorts of things, other tools that I have been looking at, okay, right, what are the tasks that Nat did that, as someone who is not officially diagnosed with ADHD, but it's highly likely and have a lot of the symptoms, but the basic admin stuff that makes me want to jump out of a window, and handling emails and making sure I'm on top of my inbox and organising my calendar and all of those sorts of things had been, for the last 2 years, in Nat's remit. So there are 2 tools that I have invested in to be able to help me there. There's one called Superhuman, which, wow, it's been a game changer. I now have inbox 0 and it's brilliant. I won't go into loads of detail on it, but oh my goodness, it's expensive, and it won't apply for most people who are listening to this because you're all in corporate organisations, but it's been such a relief. I'm then using a sort of project management tool called Motion, which prioritizes my calendar it's literally designs my day. All I do is go and put on all my tasks, projects that I have, timelines and deadlines that are coming up there, the priority, like the order, how much of a priority they are, and it works out based on all of that, the order of how I can do things, so I can see and plan my day around that. Also reminds me on things like tax filing, and all of those important things that I have to do, that when you run your own business and you are responsible for everything from legal to finance to marketing, so it's quite overwhelming, and that is helping me feel like I stay on top of everything. Also using various tools to turn rambly voice notes into something tangible, understandable. I've been using a system called Super Whisper to be able to help with that. So lots of tests have been going on, but it's also opened my eyes to the concept of AI agents, and I am exploring how do I automate repetitive tasks. Yeah, it's a minefield, but one that is filling me with excitement. And rather than overwhelm, although it is overwhelming to try and learn all of these things, and I'm specifically allocating time every day to be learning and allowing myself space to go down that rabbit hole, but I want to, and I choose to be ahead of it. And right now I feel behind, and I know that's mad, because I'm definitely ahead of most. But one of the things I need to watch out, that this isn't another form of procrastination in disguise. I talked about perfectionism. The first episode talks about how I've distracted myself from the important things that I need to be doing, like selling in order to make the business financially viable. How I've found other ways to procrastinate, and I am highly aware that AI could be, if it's not kept in check, and I won't now have Nat around to support me to do that, but it's also quite exciting. So I'm sharing this now because a lot of the world, I think, is curious or maybe a bit scared or resistant or ignorant, and I still think I'm ignorant to it, but I was really ignorant to it a couple of weeks ago. And as leaders, I think we have a responsibility to embrace change, and the choice I'm making in my leadership is to experiment out loud and take you on the journey with me as I do that. So at the end of this 3-month experiment, I will share what worked, what didn't, where AI has helped me, and also where I still think humans are non-negotiable. My plan with all of this, despite the hook title, is not to replace humans with AI, but when I hire again, to make sure that I hire someone or people, to make sure I hire people who are willing to embrace it, because it truly can, or has the potential to, exponentially impact and improve the amount that we're able to get done. And for me, that means the impact that we're able to have. So before we wrap up this episode, I wanted to share something that's been running around in my head since I watched a recent episode of Behind the Diary with Stephen Bartlett. I'll link the episode. But basically in it, he shared that 2 leaked memos, one from the CEO of Shopify and one from the CEO of Fiverr, both laying out in no uncertain terms their new expectations around AI. So the Shopify memo essentially said that using AI effectively is now a fundamental expectation of everyone at the company. So before any team member asks for more headcount or more budget, they have to prove that AI can't do the work. And the CEO of Fiverr actually went even further, saying, AI is coming for your jobs. Heck, it's coming for my job too. This is a wake-up call. Not all of us are doomed, but those who don't wake up fast are. Whew, it's heavy. So then Bartlett went on to share a memo that he sent to his own team, essentially offering them all a chance to win 20 grand that implements AI in the most time-saving, cost-effective way over the next 90 days. Not because he says he wants to cut jobs, but because he says he wants to create a culture of experimentation and learning. But realistically, people are going to be looking before they hire, before they outsource, at what AI can take off their plate. And that is exactly what I am looking at now. And that was amazing. But that superhuman email tool that I'm using is sensational. It's such a relief to have a clear inbox. And for that not to mean that I'm missing things, but actually that I'm seeing them, because it's pulling to light the things that I really need to take action on and enabling me to work in a way that allows me to create specific focus time, not get distracted or feel overwhelmed by my inbox. So I am also asking myself a similar question right now. And if you are too, if you're in that messy middle of not really understanding what is going on or trying to lead through change and trying to navigate what this all means for us to embrace it, but also stay human, then I would absolutely love to hear from you. DM me, share your experiments, and let's learn together, or flern. See you next time. Fulfillment, impact, and a life that you actually want to jump out of bed for, even on a Monday. By listening to this episode, I hope you are one step closer to creating that and becoming a leader that lasts. Now, I want to hear from you. Pop me a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram and let me know what landed. And if you are the kind of kind-hearted leader who's willing to help me out in a big way, take a minute to rate and review the podcast. Send me a screenshot and I'll send you a juicy freebie as a big thank you. Until next time, lead, don't leave, and I'll see you in the next one.